Good morning. I was going to do a big production of sleeping on camera for you guys, but then that would look so cheesy and fake that I didn't think it would be a good idea. So, um, so it's not going to happen. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Margaret. So yeah, I yeah, yeah, it was going to be it was going to be hilarious for me, but the rest of you just be like, "Is he all right today?" Technically, the answer would be no, but yeah, welcome to Mid Morning Medium Chat with Adam the Black Swamp Medium. Thanks for being here on this Saturday, January 28th. Kind of cool outside, not too bad, but hopefully those things are good. Hey, Nikki, good morning, good afternoon. um, yeah, I'm gonna be. I will admit, I'm gonna be pretty tired today, which I knew that was gonna happen. Sorry, I'm moving a few screens around. Um, hey, Shannon. Yeah, absolutely. Woo-hoo. This is cup 2, and I wish I would have slammed another one, but then I didn't want to be like having to like run upstairs. Hey, Veronica, and having to use the restroom stuff. So yeah, um, I figured I'd space it out, So yeah, if I could have gotten a second cup in, I might be a little bit more chipper, but we'll see. We'll see. Usually the more I get into this, the better things get. So at least I feel that way. But yeah, no, so yeah, I'm tired. We're going to talk about that in just a moment of why I'm so tired and why there really isn't a true specific topic this week, but that's going to happen from time to time. And today was one of those days, even though I do have a way of, sort of creating a topic on the fly, which I would do anyway, but I will also leave it open to everybody. But if there's any other outstanding questions people might have and things, and so we'll see where this goes. But so it'd kind of be a free for all show, which is what I used to call it too in the past whenever this happened. But hey, Debbie, good morning. So yeah, uh, you know, going over the week, like we always do. Hey, Tim. Right? Yeah. Um, yeah, uh, okay, the week was okay. I was getting into the beginning of the week was a little rough, and I can't remember exactly now what was going on, but I just know that, hey, Mel, good morning. I it it's like anything, we all have our good days and bad days. We've talked about this countless times before, and I think it was Sunday I was having the off day. I think that's what it was. I think. I don't know, something to that effect, but it wasn't like horrible things. It was just, it just was a down day, and um, didn't have a whole lot of energy and stuff like that. But it was just one of those things I needed to recharge. And that's essentially what it came to. Because, like I said, we've talked about these things before. Hey, Carrie, good morning. And so, yeah, I just, still rolled through the day, still did my things like I normally would. And it was just one of those things that, sometimes, extra days are needed or extra time, or, really just can't get too involved in stuff. So that's all that really happens. Hopefully everybody, because look, I know most people, other than a few of you, that are in different countries, so you guys didn't have to worry about it as much. But yeah, middle of the week, we for a lot of us in the Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and other areas, as the storm moved through. But we had some lovely snow and crazy weather. I will say that, you know, like always, completely didn't get anything near what they were predicting. I mean, just terribly off. Which is not surprising anymore. And really, I just can't even fathom, believing, anything. Because even temperature seemed to not always be accurate anymore. Oh, it's going to be cold, and it's not. So I mean, so I I'm just kind of laughing over it because nowadays it's they did not take into account the ground was right, Shannon. I mean, it is true. I mean, we still got snow. I mean, we all did. But what was interesting? Hey, Bonnie, good morning. I know. I they were predicting. So I mean, you're watching it, and for me, if it's on a weekend, I it's not as bad. It's not too much of a concern for me. But like for me, Monday through Friday, it's that, driving to work, and I drive 66 miles. It's an hour and 10 minutes, and so it's brutal, and to be do that in weather, when everything gets, the conditions could be terrible. That's what sucks. And so, I tried to make the attempt Wednesday morning, but I heard, well, I was checking the weather and I was looking out there, and it wasn't, it almost sounds like a Veronica. Yeah. Easy. Easy. Hey, Chad. Uh, but no, I mean, you know, saw that we were having, at least in my area in Ohio, we were getting freezing rain. And I'm like, "Oh, boy," because when I looked out Wednesday morning, I didn't really see a whole lot of snow down, and I'm just like, that," and then when I was checking everything out and looking into it, and it's early, it's 4:30 in the morning, so it's like not a whole lot of traffic going on at that point, so you can't really judge to be like, "How's people doing? Are there accidents? Is there, issues?" There's just not a lot of reported because there's not a lot of people on the road. So so I get out, and my neighborhood's terrible, and I get out in the main street, and it's definitely, got a little bit of wiggle in the car, and then trying to get onto the highway a little bit, and it just was like, nope, nope, it's not going to work out too well, because then I'm not going to sit there and have to drive literally following the freezing rain up into southern or southeast eastern Michigan. I'm like, I'm just not doing it. Just can't risk this. Because even then, exiting, was like fishtailing a little bit slowly. And I mean, I'm 5 miles an hour and I'm still kind of weak. I'm like, yeah, it's a sign, clear sign. Do not drive all the way up there because you're going to be hurting. And even then, what's the point of, taking an extra hour, so a couple hours to get there driving, horribly slow. It just wasn't worth it. And, and I got a all-wheel drive vehicles, but when you're still kind of wiggling a little bit and you could feel the back end still wants to, slip out, I'm like, just not doing it. So I turned around and crawled back home and got in the door and, told my manager and stuff. I'm like, I ain't risking it today, man. There's no way because I just can't do it. Maybe later on or something like that. But yeah, I couldn't do it. So Chad, 5 a.m. Wednesday was about 35 degrees and no snow, but by 2 p.m. 30 degrees and we had eight. Yeah, see, that's the thing is the storm did weird things. I mean, granted, once I got home and got situated again, and I set up my work desk and stuff like that to kind of, because there was a couple things I was allowed to do, I was gonna get a little bit of work done, but I couldn't do all day. I still had to use some vacation time. But I, then that's when as the sun was starting to come up, or at least the more light was out, and then you finally saw the snow was hitting. But it definitely didn't drop like it was supposed to. I mean, it definitely, we definitely got stuff. There's no doubt about it. And then, you know, we were supposed to get, like Chad was saying, I mean, he got 8. I was supposed to get 8, like regardless, and that didn't even come close. I mean, I think I judged it out as maybe around 3 to 3.5 total. And I mean, it's sad to say that, here to, I'm going to give you this big, well, because they were saying for me, as the night before, it was going to be minimum 5 as much as 8. So I mean, okay, we'll give you a couple inches, we'll we'll give you a little leeway, and then that didn't even come, happen. So it's like, oh well. But and then the funny part is then ever since then we've, then Thursday we were supposed to get a total of an inch, and just got flurries. Last night we were supposed to get an inch with some wintry mix into it, just some flurries, and I'm like, okay, we're real spot on with this stuff. I mean, at least it still did something. It just didn't even do anything accumulation, because I mean, and that's the thing. But anyway, this isn't a true weather show anyway. I'm not gonna remember. I always was gonna joke around. I was gonna put like, radar and country behind us, and we were gonna do some fun mediumship weather behind me. I forgot about that. Got to get that back out again. So heaviest part shifted north, but again, I think we did get close to 5, mostly melted. Winter is finally making a very, yeah, and even then I was looking ahead, Shannon. I noticed too, there's I saw a couple warm-ups on the way. Obviously it's predicted for, further out. but I saw something that was getting closer to 40 degrees, and so I'm like, you know, heading on a cruise next week, so hopefully next Saturday weather is good. Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to be, um, you know, yeah, you want to get there. I can't remember. I'm not. We won't do that because we don't want to spend all the time looking at weather for morning show. I mean, what is this? But at least it'll be fun, Shannon. If you get out there and you guys will have a good time and great time to get out, I mean, get out of the snowy weather and cold and get to some sports. I mean, that's what was great about when I went to Florida, in November of last year. I mean, it wasn't horrible but even then that morning that we left to go to Florida, we had snow and ice, which was crazy. To go figure, it's like, here's a send off. We're gonna give you some weather. So it's all part of the change we were having on Earth. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was nice to get out of there and wear shorts and things and stuff. So yeah, that'll be fun. So you have a good time. Yeah, in kind of segueing in to what happened last night. I was gonna post about it, and then I got kind of stuck into things, and we need the snow for the lakes. That's true, Veronica. That's true. It helps out, for the summer. Sending sunshine and 80s vibe for Florida trip in 2 weeks. The snow can politely go. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we. Well, that's the thing is, I mean, to finish it off, and then we'll get out of the weather stuff. But we, we had La Nina last fall and stuff like that, which segues into our winter. And we've got the key to tiredness at least now. Yeah. And we, as we got into, January and stuff like that, technically that still continues. And looking at the forecast and stuff because of the La Nina and stuff, we, our temperatures, even right where I'm at, was always is listed as slightly above average. So it meant that it wasn't going to be the temps that we're used to, seeing this time of year. Doesn't mean that it won't happen, because what the deal is, we got all this warm weather, pushing up. So it's not letting the cold air come down and sit on top of us like it does for the winter months. So you have this battle going on, which is why some of these storms are so unique. Look at me. I'm sounding like a goddamn meteorologist. Did you guys learn something? I got into weather when I was an 18-year-old. I thought about changing my careers and doing that because I really enjoyed it. But here I am giving you guys facts. That's interesting. See, I told you I would pick myself up, and I'm only, halfway through cup number 2. So anyway, but let me talk about last night because it was long overdue and it was very exciting. But I was going to post about it, and I had every intention to do it because I was going to put some photos up, and I just never got around to it, and because of the excitement of it. But last night we had our first booking or private investigation booked at the old mill. And it was, to say the least, it was fantastic to be back because we haven't been there since November, where our Parafest was. But to be back, to be able to ghost hunt again, was just like amazing. We even better, and I'm going to kind of break it up a little bit, but even better was the fact that our mill, the old mill's basement is finally cleaned up, fully, set, cleaned, repaired, all that stuff is good to go. And so since last summer was the first time I finally gotten back down into our basement again. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of that here shortly, but so for those, that are catching this, or for those that have been interested, we are fully back open and ready to go for full, the full building access to ghost hunting again. So, hey, Dana. Oh, were you really? Yeah. See, if you would have known, dang, that would have been crazy. Uh, could have like popped over and said hi. But yeah, it was, I mean, a lot of times that, we, in the past, especially like when I first was, um, showing up to the mill before I joined the team. And then as I was segueing into the team, for a few years, y- January, February, and even part of March, it was always just the quiet months. Most people didn't want to go out in the weather, and that's completely valid. I mean, I'm always nervous about the groups that are booking privates because of the fact that like yesterday we were supposed to get a good inch of snow, plus with some wintry mix then on top of it. So someone should interview the construction guys and see any experience. Well, that's true, Chad. I mean, they do see a lot of our little setups and things like that and they're kind of disrespectful, which makes sense. And I'm going to talk about that because there was some disrespect that wasn't horrible, but it definitely wasn't nice. But I'll talk about that in a moment. Um, but yeah, the just the fact of being able to walk around again and not feel like we can't go someplace because it could be this or it could be that, and then pipe repairs and stuff. So yeah, it was just great to be back and just to be able to set foot in there. And so yeah, those pull frills aren't woke. um it Yeah, like I said, just being able to walk in there and granted, we didn't have a lot of time to truly investigate, for ourselves and stuff. And we didn't have the whole team there. Not everybody could make it, which is, we had some sick and some were already busy on other things. But just the fact of, being able to be back. I mean, like I said, I can't, as a construction guy, get that people underfoot plus it's clashing group of weirdos. True. That's true, Chad. um, but you know, my main thing was obviously getting back in the basement because even when we had a few other investigations, even in the summer and stuff. Of course, not being able to go in the basement is always a tough one to you know deal with, and obviously it's most people, when the word is spread, basements is a hot spot. It's one of the areas that people want to go to, and to not have that opportunity, stinks. Not that there isn't other areas that do just fine, and there is. But it's like anything. You want to be able to get to everything, but it's like some places, that are really big and stuff. Sometimes there's just areas you can't get to, what for safety reasons and stuff. And then kind of that's how the basement was. It was a safety issue, of not letting anybody in there just because if something happens, obviously they don't want to get in trouble and get sued and all that fun stuff. So out of safety and stuff, they shut the basement down until they can get it cleaned up. So, but yeah, like I said, it was great to get there. And again, we made an effort to go as soon as we could get in the door. We ran downstairs and just it was, I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't know how fast our basement spirits are because again, we haven't seen them since July, June, July, somewhere in there. So I didn't know how to take it. Now we've seen what it was like from COVID. We've seen how that's worked out, where when we finally could get back to the mill, and we did it just the one time where it was just the team. We didn't open it up, but we just had the team show up and walking around and just feeling the sadness when you're used to other emotions, and to see the differences. And so sure enough, the basement spirits definitely were you know well, I mean, you guys have heard me talk about it, so it's not like I'm holding anything back. But the one that we typically have down there, Nevea, who was, for those that don't know the story and stuff like that, she was murdered on that river raisin, up the river a little bit. Um, she's now kind of made the mill a home, and I think it's because of the fact that there's always people there, and we're there quite a bit, and especially during the warmer months and stuff, and so we're always giving her attention. We're always keeping her memory alive. And she came up to me, after a little bit after we walked around. Well, I should actually, let me back up before I talk about her. Um, of course, we get down in the basement, we can see all the work that was done. Just peeking around, and then in the one area where we have the kids table set up, which really is for Nevea too, um, was pushed way over the side, and just things that we have set up. We have like a tea party thing set up, and it's all like, things are just all in disarray. But I think the thing that got me and really it hurt the most was the fact that on this one storage ledge, uh, there I had a, plastic vase with some, fake flowers, and over the top of it, I had a necklace that was there, and it was for the one as the team always calls her, my girlfriend, Marie, and she, that was knocked on the floor and just kinda, like, kicked aside, and it was like, you know and interesting enough to see that, that broke me, because that was sad to see, and I have it labeled. I have the vase labeled, "Don't touch this, don't remove it," and they just kinda like, "Whatever." And I understand what was happening, but to not pick it up or push it to the side or something like that, I think that was tougher to swallow. But, you know, so I fixed it, I put it back up there, got it kinda looking good again, and then, uh when we went back out of that room, that's when Nevaeh came up to me. "Hey, good morning, Sharon." And, she came right up because the first thing I know, yeah, seeing that vase knocked on the floor and just left there was rough. Yeah, Jeff. Yeah. Jeff was there. And his buddy, I'm not gonna say his name because I didn't ask to say his name, but he had a friend with him last night. But um he, Nevaeh came up, and the first thing I noticed, I started having literally the whole left side of me, just felt like, pins and needles going all the way down my, so I was like, "Oh, here we go," because I was hoping it was Marie at first. But the next thing I know is then, I was picking up on Nevaeh, and she was standing there, and, she ended up, squeezing onto my hand, and the cool thing was, for some people, it would probably be really horrible to experience, but, she was squeezing so hard to my hand, which, obviously it's been a while, but she was squeezing so much that it felt as if my hand was being slightly crushed in a way where, sometimes if you ever get a cramp in your hand, it's that kind of feeling, not painful, but obviously it was intense enough to show, she was so excited, and she was. I mean, she was glad, to see us again and, interact because obviously it's been a while. And so, that was a really, really cool feeling, and to have her right there holding on and squeezing as much as she did, because she's never had that kind of energy. To really physically do something to somebody living, was pretty unique and awesome. But yeah, it was great to get her interact with her and, explain a few things. And obviously, as I was talking to her, I was like, "Where's Marie?" and stuff. And then she was pointing into the other room where we just were. And that's when I finally saw her for the first time. And so typically, Marie will come up to me after a short little bit of time, usually, within 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But she hasn't. But what was interesting enough is when I looked back into the other room, she was crouched down and just in an emotional state. Um, just kind of like, I mean, like literally emotional bawling. And the what was neat was just she was back over there where that vase was that I had, which was all dedicated for her. Just going to throw it out there, but a lot of construction in this area is worked by groups of people usually deeply Western religion, especially in northern Toledo area, Italians, Mexicans, Polacks. Hate to throw them under the bus, but I've seen defamation usually before. Yeah, just call. Yeah, right. No, chat. I mean, construction's construction. You know, what I mean, whether you're leaving a mess, whether you're cleaning everything up, whether you're just kicking things around. Yeah. I mean, I think you've seen it in all walks of life, type of thing. And not that they would have known. I mean, they would have been like, "Oh, that's really weird," and they probably would have been freaked out. And depending on the people that were there, and like I said, I get it. I just, sometimes just to see, like, when you go down there and you're inspecting everything, and you see where everything is at, and then you just kind of, push things around and stuff like that, or knock things over and don't have any care of just even picking up. Like, I know I do. Like, something falls, you kind of push it back over to the side so it's not going to bother or hinder something, somebody else from breaking it or crashing in it or tripping, that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, so I got done talking with Nevaeh, and I told Jeff and his buddy, I said, "Don't, to stay back." And so I went in there, and I went over to her, and I'm going to try not to get emotional myself, which you guys know it will happen. I can break down easily. The I finally went over to her, and I was trying to do the same kind of respect of, comforting her. And I, was kind of trying to put my hand on her and stuff like that, just, just to show her that, hey, I'm truly here again. I am, I'm back. And, um, eventually she warmed up enough to where she turned around and, when she did, I mean, she stood up and basically kind of like jumped into my arms kind of thing. And, I could feel it. I mean, I could feel the hugging motion and, which was great. And again, just like I did with Nevea, I kind of had to explain things, and she was obviously emotional of, that her flowers and necklace that I gave to her, was, on the ground and stuff, and where it used to be always sitting up there to where she could see it so easily, and then to see it just laying there. And, um, you know, so, but to finally feel, that connection again, because again, it's been since the summer, and it sucks. And I thought about doing it a bunch of times of just remote viewing into the mill and seeing our spirits there. And, and a lot of times I just I'd get lazy, or I would, just forget about it, because of all kinds of other things going on, story of my life. Schedule's always on the roll, but it was one of those things I wish looking back, I think if this is ever the case again, I'm going to make sure I do that. But it's a lesson learned for me. But, because, I think it would have helped. And even then, maybe, I could have gotten some information of like what was going on in the basement, and still could, they still might be able to share some of that. But I think what like happens when we're not there for, whether it's a couple months or a longer stretch, um, we kind of get like a treatment, a little bit of a cold shoulder treatment at times. At least with the female spirits, kid spirits and stuff, they tend to give us a little bit of uh an interesting cold shoulder. And it's kind of that one of those that they know you're there, they're glad you're there, but we're mad that you've been gone for a while. So, because like I said, just like with the pandemic and stuff, that was way different. That was a totally different thing. But the emotions were crazy and affecting several of us, breaking us down into tears, on the spot. And then like this, where we come back and we're just like, hey, you know, uh, they they play with us for a little bit, and then they warm up, and then all the normal sensations of feeling them, seeing them, the experiences, finally come back to what you're used to. And so, but yeah, it was really good. Didn't get a ton of time to react, and I wish wish there would have been, but we had the group was going to be showing up real soon. And sure enough, it was a very large group, and which was great because I said it was the first investigation of the year, first time the mill's been fully back open again. And they didn't. Now the cool thing about it is they didn't want any paranormal at all. They didn't want no. They really didn't even want the history. They did. So all I really did was just kind of walk them around, and for the tour was the fastest tour I've ever given. You don't have to say a whole lot. This is great. But but I get it. And I appreciate that. Being able to go in there with no idea of what's there. So you can just grab, and see what kind of experiences, what your equipment's going to do. And so they, like I said, I showed them all the areas so that way they could see it with lights on, and then know, where you can go, where you can't go, and what to look out for so you don't trip and fall. Because most of them have been on. There's only a couple of them that haven't done. There was only two that this was their first time. Then there's another couple that have been to a couple, and then the rest of them were all like veterans of like 5, 6, 7 places. But they were fun, they were a good group. But yeah, they had a lot of experiences, which was really good. You never know, because sometimes our spirits will they'll be interactive. They can be interactive, and obviously the group's energies were right. And whether it was them as a whole, whether it was just the fact that we haven't had any investigations in a long time, hard to truly say because they didn't really ask about it. But it was the point of just starting things back up again, and to have that them interacting again, because obviously during the day and stuff, nobody's talking to them. Everybody's just kind of walking past them and ignoring them. So when the ghost hunters show up, so to speak, we get to have some fun. Dana, they don't even realize the value or bang for their buck without the history and paranormal stuff included. Geez, even most lighthouses caretakers in the UP can't talk about that stuff. Yeah, and Dana, it's a lot of times what we don't usually get it where the whole group wants to go in cold. And they had some sensitive, they weren't quite mediums, but they were sensitives. So it's just more energy, picking up on energy. But, you know, I've had it where, you push some of those, you put them in another room, and then we talk about the history and go through everything and tell them, this is what's here, this is what the, do, or here's some of the evidence we can show you and listen to. So yeah, it's different to not say a whole lot, but it doesn't matter to me, I mean, well, I'll do, whatever needs to be done. And if they didn't want it, great, and like I said, it also shortens the time. It does. It shortens the time. And, you know, in some way, where, instead of it being usually a little over an hour for the tour because of all the areas we go to, because the old mill, when you get there, you think it's not, a small place. Excuse me, when it's a small place. And then when you actually walk it and I take you through the tour, then you're like, wow, that's and it happened last night. They're like, wow, this is really big. I'm like, it looks deceiving. You would never think how big it is until you truly walk the mill. Granted, if you were to go on a weekend when they do open houses and stuff, which, like this weekend, they'd be open. You can't obviously get into the basement and stuff. So there's some areas are normally not opened for that kind of thing. But just even then, walking through the mill side of it and then going over to the banquet hall, I mean, you still get a good gist of how big this place really is. And so I think the history after investigation. Yeah, Chris. I mean, that a lot of times that's for me like that. Going to whether it is some type of notorious place where you do know some of it, or it's big enough to where you've never really heard of it, but you just had because you didn't know anybody that goes, or a true residential investigation. So I try to go in as cold as possible, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I do prefer not to know anything at all, because then obviously anything you pick up and can be useful, helpful, and and validate that it's the same spirits that you're dealing with. And those were always fun because like even then, the one and only time I've been to Waverly Hills, same thing. There was in the one entry room to Waverly, uh, there was this unusual entity, and I'm going to put it like that. And I was like, what is this? Now, they explained, which, was fine. They explained everything because most people want to know what goes on or what if people have experienced. So for me, doing what I do, it's like, it's cool because I want everybody else to have that moment. It's like, for me, I mean, it's no big deal. But when they don't share certain information and then you experience something else that they don't share, because I remember when I experienced this entity, I went up to the tour guide and I'm like, so what's this doing? And he kind of gives me this. He's like, yeah, we don't usually talk about him for a reason. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I was explaining exactly what people have witnessed him as. And he's like, yep, that's him. I'm like, okay. So yeah. So there's still moments where you could fit that in there where you can get some cool things and stuff. So if they don't like the tours in those areas, could they allow remote devices? Are you talking about like equipment, Chad? If they don't like tours in those areas, could they allow remote devices? I mean, people, I mean, our mill's big enough, so you can set up they could set up a website that you could be a member and go and watch. Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, no, we don't have anything that's online per se. I mean, we do have on the mill side, we do have cameras on all floors now. That got installed last spring, I think it was. So we do have a DVR system on that side, and but it's not available for people to see. We've talked about that over the years of having, like a live webcam kind of thing going on, like while we're there. But see, like now, if it's a private investigation, technically it wouldn't be right for us to be showing them as they're walking into whatever room or rooms that we'd be showing live. So if we were doing a public, that could obviously be an option. But normally we don't. Yeah, I mean, because even then, some of you have to be watching it the whole time, and that works out because, a lot of times, even private groups that do get in, eventually usually ask us to tag along. But last night they were getting enough consistency that we did, because like we always say, we could be used as a trigger object, just standing there, just standing in the room or wherever they are, and they're still asking the questions and stuff, but we're just standing there, and then the activity happens. So which is, it's fun, and I do appreciate it because, I kind of get to investigate a little bit more. So um Chris, then they can go, "Oh, yes, I forgot to mention that," right? Chris, that would be cool when no one is there. Yeah, yeah, it's come up, but like I said, there's enough times where there is work there. There isn't. Hey, Laura, there is, there's other functions, so it would, to me, other than it being like a 24-hour type of thing, it would have to be when we're there, or uh again, whether it's a public or something that maybe it's just the team is there, and we throw up some stuff, and you know live for a few hours or something like that. That's more of an option, but I know the board and stuff would probably not be cool with leaving something live all the time, because I'm sure they would, I'm sure they would put up a stink over it. I'm just saying, most, I love the mill. I love everybody, anytime I get to hang out with them, because I don't get to obviously see them all, and sometimes you used to see them when I would get there, for an investigation. And then most times I don't get to see them at all until, like a Parafest or something. So I don't get to interact with a lot of the board members and staff. And it always bums me out, because there's a lot of great people. And some of them I do consider friends, because, when I do get to hang out with them, we have a good time and a lot of laughs. And it's not even just, for the sake that, our team is really just volunteers there, um, yeah, just ask the group if it's okay to go live. Yeah, Laura, Christine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Answer my question. I say boo. Let's see, Shannon. Speaking of remote investigating, I'd like to know who is hanging out at my house. I thought I cleared it out, but one or two here, including a spirit guide. Shannon, hit me up privately so we can talk about that. Because I can set something up. I have to do a few other. In fact, Shannon, if you're into it, um, tomorrow I got to do a remote view for an actual residential case for another team in another country. So, so, uh, so I have a little fun with, but it's not a very long. My stuff for that kind of thing is really quick. Hey, Jamie, good morning. So yeah, hit me up privately, and maybe we can set something up tomorrow. Because like I said, I'm gonna do that tomorrow, and then I could just squeeze that in there as well. Because today I'm going to be a wreck. And for those that are joining, I'm super tired. I did not get home until it was like almost right around 2:40 a.m. and stuff. So I am just, I'm tired. So, that's why this is probably the most you've ever seen me like taking sips of coffee, and this is only cup two. I see. Also need permission for the people who run the museum. Yeah, absolutely, Christine. But yeah, and I personally, with that kind of thing, I don't have a problem doing lives or just even using our phones. I know I haven't done it in years. The last time I ever did it on this page, on the Facebook page, I did a live, and it was at Eloise. That was the last time I ever did that. And so I, I've always thought about doing it more. And then it was always like, then you're holding it, but then like for me, like you want to investigate too, but you're holding the phone. So then it's like, well, then I get a stand, I'll put it on the stand, and then I'll still be able to, jump in front of the camera and be like, I'm picking up on this. But you gotta get that screen time in. But so it had, I have thought about it, but obviously, like, we did approach the board about putting cameras up, and they approved it, but it's never come to install it. We looked into it again, and right, yeah. Amy McLean is a portal in her basement. Y'all would have a field day in there. Shadow people, imps, fairies, a couple of real dark entities, all of her family traditions, generations of native land. Yeah, man. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, Amy was Amy was hitting me up the last couple days, in some of the posts and stuff. So that was fun to see her chiming in and commenting. So I know she tagged you, Chad, on one of them. So But yeah, like I said, it's something we can, look back into, and I got dust flying everywhere now. That's true dust. That's not a spirit. um, but it's 1010, by the way. Ooh, I better put that in the chat. Gonna mark it. my Jen's not in there, so I'll have to, tell her afterwards that I caught it. Oh, that's funny. Look at it. As I posted it, then the timestamp went up as 1011, so chronological. So I got both. Woo! That's for all you numbers people, remember? But um yeah, no, so like yeah, well, we now that the basement's open, now we can kind of get back to the things. I mean, like right now, we even have to watch the replays 9:30. I get, well, I get that. Yeah. That's, again, this show is always for those that are awake and those that, are willing to watch it back another time, and still get something out of it, or just have some fun and stuff. But yeah. So, uh, but yeah, we're we're starting to plan events. We there's now that we know we can do things, we're gonna start putting some more publics out there, but we're gonna wait until the weather's just a tad warmer. So probably sometime after March and things, we'll start doing some publics, so people are be more than willing to sign up for it. We do have a limit, as far as numbers, so it's not like you're going to be, completely slammed with, we never get we don't bring a big numbers in for publics and things. So I mean, if people are interested in investigating, publics are great. They're great even for us. I'm not, I don't ever put down anybody else. We keep the numbers small so that even when it is a public, you could be in other areas and not feel like you're being crowded, by others and things. And some, obviously some people are, scared and they're nervous and excited. And so sometimes you get that kind of extra noise and things that fill the air. Any of us seasoned ghost hunters know that. You can always, you can spot the newbies, from far away, which is great. That is a form of entertainment, for some of us, because the longer you do this, it's just like, what, but I do appreciate the excitement, because it does help their energies of being excited. And even when they're scared, even though I'm not looking at it as a positive, but even being scared fuels the spirits, anywhere, and gives them a little bit of life to interact and socialize with those that are there. So but yeah, but and just to kind of start tailing off, but I did want to finish this up. So um I again, I didn't ask to use his name or anything like that. So, but Jeff's friend was there. And we had an opportunity, and it's been on the plate for a while now, is to kind of give his buddy a reading. And oops, I just killed the mic. Sorry about that, Pop. And it was a great opportunity. It's like, we'll bring him to the mill, I'll get the tour done. We'll do this, or we'll do a reading, and then we'll do the tour and stuff. But everything kind of when it worked out. So I ended up, giving him a reading there. And it worked out really well. And this is kind of why I wanted to bring it up, even though I didn't really have a topic, and I kind of said, Q&A, but I thought, well, if nobody really asked any other like questions and thing, I would just segue into this. But his reading really was pretty interesting, because I've never met the guy, and so I really didn't know anything about him. And we get into it, and it ended up being to the fact that all the information that was coming up, which was a lot of interesting stuff, and most of my stuff is visual and not so much audible, but I did have some audible voices come through. But all that information, again, I ended up realizing that a lot of his guides were coming through for him. And I've seen that a lot more recently, even last year. More guides have been showing up to, for people, and which is really cool. And it's really fun, because that's almost like, again, being an investigator, it's always neat to kind of put these all down and just see what the bigger picture is looking like. Because it's not always a guarantee that, if you don't want somebody specific and you're just kind of like whatever's there come through, that certainly mean your guides can come up and be there. So if your loved ones don't really feel like talking to you today for whatever reason, or they're just, shy, your guides will come up and give some information. And that's what happened. And I think it was good, because, he's, definitely, he's been on a path for a while, but now he's able to, the information that came out, he's able to, uh, he's got some decisions to make, which some he was, he's totally cool. He's got some others that he's got to contemplate, and everything that showed up is just now kind of fine tuning his path a little bit. I mean, we all can lean a little bit either, left and right. We can kind of go over obstacles and bumps and things. I've talked about some of that before. And so right now we're just trying to get him to be a little bit more straight and forward, straight and narrow down the center of the path. This year's Shannon saying, "Hey Betsy, this is a year of self transformation, so yeah, we need more support." Yeah, Shannon. Um, and so yeah, it worked out really well. And one of the key things, and I think that's why I wanted to push this in there, is just for all of you. And I've talked about some of this before. And sometimes it's like this, where it's just a little bit in here, but like what was key for him is he wasn't fully aware aware in the sense that using all of your senses to understand when you're being informed, you're receiving messages and things, because it's not like this. It's not a simple where you guys are looking at me or you're listening to me right now. If you're doing the audio only version, where it's just a voice hitting you and it makes sense. We're programmed where, you see somebody, you hear their voice, you get the communications back and forth. Spirits, your guides, your loved ones and stuff do not always communicate that way. That's not how it works. They use multiple ways, multiple facets of it. And so you have to be aware of everything that's going on around you. And so I gave him several tips, as to how to start that process. And it seems to a lot to be like, well, that's everything's a step. Everything is a step. There is anybody that thinks that you can, you know, I mean, take a profession, you know what I mean? Uh, you really want to do this, okay? And you can't just go from not knowing a whole lot to being an expert at it. It doesn't work. That's never worked. So you have to take some courses. You have to then do like some on the job training, and you work your way to getting to the point where you understand it, to where you feel like you know all the ins and outs of it as best you can. I mean, obviously there's always little wiggle rooms, but just like with a spiritual path, again, nothing against nothing. It's all a buildup. It's nothing is just there. I mean, does it happen? Absolutely. There's certain times we get that stuff and it's like, okay, I get it. And then there isn't. There's sometimes you have to work toward it. But if you feel the draw to it, if you feel that strong connection, I think, to go that direction, like I need to do this, you work towards it. I'm doing this, and you go right for that, and you don't stray from it. And then that's important. Uh, we just got to stop the mentality of thinking that everything is going to be easy. It's just going to like plop right in our laps. It doesn't work. And again, feeling that pull for whatever it is, like mediumship. When I talked about that, my mediumship, it just was such a pull. It was such a passion, a desire to do it and to understand the pros and cons to it too. But every day asking for it. I want to do this. I want to do this. I know I can do this. And I just kept working towards it. And then it happened, because I did not hear spirits growing up. That didn't happen. But I realized that was a calling for me, and I had to work for it. And when I work for it, then you see the results down the road. So, and that goes for anything in your life. Everything, anything and everything works. It doesn't have to be anything spiritual. It doesn't have to be anything, could be, or romance kind of thing. It could be a professional career thing. I mean, everything is possible. And it's just the same thing. You focus on it, whatever you can do to achieve that. You got to do it. And, we have our moments, we have our lazy days and stuff like that. I'm there, there's a lot of things I should be, getting finalized, and I'm still dragging my feet, you know, you know, but yeah, it's just the point. But then again, things are lining up how they're supposed to happen. If I'm not feeling it today, okay, I'm not feeling it today. Let's pick it up tomorrow and see what's going on. Right. let's see, I just want to go back. Shannon, this is the tough part of trying to decipher those messages for ones that are new. Is absolutely 100%. And that was brought up last night. Carrie, there are no coincidences. You're correct. Christine, I found one feather, set it on the sink, and in the morning it's split into two. Love that. I got to talk about feathers in just a second. And Shannon, yeah, I mean, while talking to Jeff's friend, it was just him and I at a table by ourselves, and we were going through stuff, going back and forth, besides the reading and then exploring and diving into things further. And 3 times while I was speaking to him and explaining things, and this has happened on the show for those that have seen quite a few of them or been a part of things. Again, I am open to a lot of stuff, and angels are definitely a part of it. Whether and it doesn't necessarily have to lean on a religious side, so I don't want anybody to be like freaking out. Calm down. But 3 times as I was talking to the guy in the middle of a point that I was making, sure enough, feather would pop in there, which is part of the awareness of seeing everything around. I saw this feather float up, come right in front of me, literally right in front of my eyes, and then shoot up straight above me and then disappear. 3 times that happened in the middle of a point. And I'm going, and the first 2 times he didn't see it, but he caught a glimpse of the third time it happened. And it was like, he goes, "What was that?" I'm like, and it was so cool. But I mean, the first two, I'm like, how did you not see that? But again, that was neat for him to finally see it. So even then, for that moment, he got another opening, which it just is so cool to see when that happens. And again, angel feathers have shown up for different reasons for me. I never know what they are at first, and sometimes I used to be scared of them in the sense that because then they would show up the day before, which is great. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And then the next day, horrible stuff happens. I'm like, oh, they're warning me, giving me some love today, because then tomorrow was terrible. So I always sometimes get nervous of like, but that hasn't actually happened in a number of years. Now I think, I've learned enough from them to understand it to be aware, on guard kind of thing of, so if by chance that's what the message is without asking them and just seeing their feather, then I am good to be like, what's happening today? So let's see, pay attention to where you are, where you find them in the color. Yep. Christine. Yep. Confirmation. Shannon. Yep. Love it. 3 times. Yeah. Power of 3. True, Carrie. I didn't even think about the power of 3. Also what you're speaking of or thinking of a feeling. Yeah, exactly. Christine, yeah, absolutely. I because of the more shamanic style, when I'm driving, I'm mostly home because you don't see them in the morning, but one of my favorite things is always seeing a bird of prey. I get to see a lot of times red-tailed hawks on my way home. Not every day, not every week, but really actually for about the last month and a half or so, at least once a week, I've seen them. Now, it's one thing to see them sitting on a tree, which is cool because they're pretty camouflaged, and it's always fun because I get that like, hey, look over here, and I look and I'm like, there he is. Or she, she's sitting, they're sitting on the, a tree limb, but most people don't even see it. It's when you get those that when they fly over you, that's the cool part, because that's usually when a message is being delivered. That is something that is a Native American, tradition, as far as that's what that means, because obviously it's flying, it's the message is moving. And so that's when then you look at what's going on, what are your thoughts are at that point, or what's important in your life, and then that's where that wraps into it. So yeah, Christine, hawks for me every day. Jamie, my mom has found a lot of feathers since your dad died. I found a few. Yeah, and that's, again, a lot of times those are put in place because of comfort, to help you through it, to show you that they are there, and I know by now, Jamie, you know that really well. But so that way it's never like a true loss. Yes, from a physical standpoint, we don't have our loved ones here, but energetically they are. And that's the cool thing is, and when they can do something physical like that, whether it's a feather, whether it's a coin, or other messages, again, there's so many things that they can do. Put a song on the radio, uh, feel them, at a particular moment. That just, again, it just shows you that not everything is lost, they're always there. Um, Carrie, when I get hit with three, I stop and do the wait, what, and Chris said, consider what's going right. Yeah, I didn't last night because, yeah, obviously, I it was a paid session, so I mean, obviously, I wanted to make sure that I took care of his buddy. So yeah, I wanted to. So it was hard to really, only. I mean, I recognized it. I saw them. I acknowledged him. You know, totally did, and explained that too. Of those, this is how this works. These are the messages that are coming in. So I said, here. I mean, crazy that it was happening right in the middle of a point I was making. So I'm like, it's kind of like one of those, you go, girl. Kind of, I was like thinking at that time, like, yeah, I'm on a point. But let's see, oh, yep, of course, song still plays, right? Yeah, Jamie, yep. I've been finding pennies in the ground. Shannon, just make sure when you're finding these coins, make sure you look at them. Look at that year, see if that year represents anything. And if it's not so much the calendar year, see if that breaks down into other specifics. And I've talked about that, whether it's a part of a phone number, part of a social security number, part of a street address. That number can be broken down to represent, who may be coming through to talk to you. Margaret, I've seen feathers, coins, and other things. There's always something to show that my family, husband are there. Yep. Even a footprint, right? I remember seeing that, Margaret. Yep. Bob and I smelled my dad's aftershave in the house and in the car when I took Liberty's Rainbow Bridge. Yeah, see, and like that, that is a comforting thing to help you get through those moments. And we know that I always tell people, make sure you ask your loved ones to come up and be with you, or stop by for a visit, yeah, they're going to have some fun. They're going to do some stuff, but if you really need them at a moment, or they can clearly see that, like with Christine, um, at a moment where there's going to be more loss, to have them come over to be there for you, to give you that comfort. I mean, that's what they're there for. It's to help you get through those moments, and know that they're supporting you. You knew you would come for it, right? Yeah. And to make it a clean crossover and everything, those are beautiful. I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, in that sense, in a spiritual sense, obviously, the loss is always tough. And, for anything, doesn't matter if it's an animal, doesn't matter if it's a person, all loss is rough. And I know for me, and I've talked about this, I'm glad of what I've done that does help with loss. I know I can't, it's not easy to share that with everybody. Seeing and being able to do what I do has helped me out. So I know that, when family, as, not a, everybody's just keeps getting older, and you get to those points where you look at stuff and you're just like, yeah, we're in that kind of ballpark, and I laugh about it because it's just like, but that's because that's a part of life. You can't change it, and it's going to happen at some point. We're not destined to live forever, and but knowing how cool things are going to be on that side, that excites me even more. And to know what a lot of our family gets to see finally for the first time and get to experience, that just, that's so amazing. And I'm, sad to say that, I mean, I'm excited when it's my time, whether it's today, tomorrow, or 20 years from now, hopefully longer, but I am. I mean, it's weird, but in a good way, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to go anytime soon, obviously there is a schedule, and, I don't know the schedule, and typically they don't tell you the schedule. So, hopefully it's a long time from now. Hopefully everybody listening or watching this is, we all have 20, 30, 40, 50 some more years, of being around and helping people and just living. That's, so cool. Christine, I did see him peek around the bathroom door at me too. Carrie, some of my family members think that I'm a little cold-hearted when it comes to, and I don't, it's funny, is moments like this is where I talk about that, but around family and stuff, I don't. I don't bring it up, but yes, it can be exactly like that. It can feel like it's cold-hearted, it's like, um, it doesn't mean that you still won't have that emotion or still feel that sadness, but you get over it so quickly because you already know what's going on the other side, and so for me, it's like, yep, sucks, we lost them, and now we got to, move on. And everybody's got their grieving. I, I'm not here to tell you to get over it. I mean, I'm not going to do that. Everybody needs to do what they need to do, and everybody would support each other regardless, whether you need to take a long time or if you're going to be crying for weeks, months, even a year. You do what you have to do. That's completely on you. Whatever you feel that is necessary to get through that sad moment. I feel future generations will have those views. Yeah, Shannon. Yeah. Yep. And it is very interesting to see things like this, and to, and I guess I'm kind of glad. I mean, because you know, as much as I'd love to share it and to show people things, it again, we all we're all souls within this human body, and our human body, the brain and everything, everything's got to try to work together. And so everybody's views and things and, are different, and that's okay. Um, but it's, I wish I could, make everybody understand. I think a lot of us would, and just realize it. But again, I get it. Nobody wants to see, like both my parents are still around, and you guys have seen my dad occasionally, showing up. Yeah, I'd hate to see them go. I mean, but it's gonna happen. Just like I'm gonna go at some point. We're all gonna go at some point, and so we I guess as we were kids and stuff, we were always it made look so negative of it's just over, it's done, it's just all this like bad stuff. And it's like, no, there's a lot more beauty to it than you realize. Yes, depending on how you go, can can be a little rough because I mean, we're not going to go down there because that's a lot of different ways that it can happen. But I mean, obviously, we would all love to just go in our sleep. That would be the epitome of all passing away. You just go to sleep, and in the middle of the night, you're on the other side. That would be great. But that still technically happens. It's just like, hopefully it's nothing, um, too traumatic. But then again, the moment of when it's going to happen, there is that peace. You do not, um, you don't transition from pain to then this. It is going to be peace, and then it happens. So, but anyway, we are out of time, so I'm going to leave everybody on that note. um, Shannon, let's see. When people come back in the future, it is easier for people to have those kinds of great experiences and discussions. Right, right. Yep, absolutely. Um, yeah. So, well, hopefully this was a fun one. Like I said, it kind of worked out, in the sense, even though it wasn't so much of a Q&A. So I may change the title when I do the audio only version of this. So I might switch it around. A little bit of a deep discussion, uh, but we'll see. But yeah, no, that was great. I appreciate everybody that was hanging out today. You guys are always awesome. Oh, let's see. Jamie's got a quick question. Do you think those filters on cell phones can really see people from the other side? Does it pick up in the spirit turn? Yeah, Jamie, a phone's a phone. Now, if you take a photo, just literally grab your phone, turn the camera and take a picture, and you're not putting anything on it, you're literally just taking a photo and something unusual pops up. There is a strong possibility. I mean, I have captured things on my phone before, but I'm not doing anything extra to it. There's no reason to. But when I'm any photos I do nowadays, typically, some of my outdoor ones I don't as much, but usually I always take 2, 3, 4 pictures in a row. Bang, 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 whatever I feel like at the moment. I take multiples, because that helps out with, going through your photos to kind of determine if is it really something unusual? Is it something debunkable? So, um, Don't putting any filters on, like going on to Snapchat or something like that and adding something. Don't do that, or don't be using, there's apps. I know I have one that I was always gonna like screw around with, but like you could add like a ghost or and things in the image. Like you could take a photo and then you can superimpose it and stuff. And I'm like, and it's cheesy, so you could clearly tell it's not real. But I've always wanted to do it just as a joke. But strictly just grab the photo, put the camera on, and just take a bunch. When you're taking photos of family or selfies or something, like take a bunch, one, two, three. Just take them and wrap it and see, because that way you can scroll through them all. Because if you got one, you might be able to figure out, oh, look, the lighting shifted or something happened over here. That's what helps when you take multiple photos. So yeah, don't put any filters on, but just take it straight up, and then go from there. So all right, so I am going to get out of here. We're 10:35, so that is awesome. Yes, I am. Thank you. I am going to get rest. Yep, Tim, it was good to see you last night, man. um, Everybody wish Tim, he's having surgery this coming week, so we want to wish him all the best, and that way he'll be back on his feet and hanging out with us really, really soon, because we got our delayed Christmas party in February, for our team. So we want to get him back on our feet again, so that way he can hang out. So good luck, Tim. You know that, buddy. We got your back, and we'll be waiting to hear those messages when you're in recovery. So I think she means the app. Oh no, I get you, Carrie. Yeah. Regardless, I mean, I just like just take photos straight up, and then some of the apps, that's a whole nother discussion and things, but we can bring that up next week. I'll bring up about, we'll talk about apps and things next week on phones and stuff. So let's do that. I'll make that the title for next week's show. So um thank you guys. Yeah, Dana, good to see you. Nikki, Jamie, Carrie, Chris, yep, Veronica. Yeah, you guys are awesome. So thank you so much. We enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay warm, stay safe. I think there might be some more snow tonight or something like that. I know tomorrow there is, so be careful out there and next week. So um but right. Thanks again. So you guys have been watching the Mid-Morning Medium Chat with Adam the Black Swamp Medium, and it means a lot for you to be here. And as always, all my love, light, and peace to each and every single one of you. And I will see you again very, very soon. Take care.